It is 6 a.m. and breaking overnight on Denver 7 News. President Trump confirms he and First Lady Melania have tested positive for COVID-19.
Just hours prior, the president on Fox News with well wishes for top aide Hope Hicks, who tested positive first.
You know Hope very well. She's fantastic, and she's done a great job.
So what is the fate of the next debate? And what about the election as a whole? We dive into it all. And good Friday morning to you. We are monitoring all the feeds this morning for any new information on this breaking story. But as of right now, there are no new tweets from President Trump overnight.
But it was through this tweet last night around 11, the president confirmed he and First Lady Melania tested positive for COVID-19. We have live team coverage this morning on the major implications this diagnosis could have on our nation and the election. And
we want to start with ABC's Alex Perche in Washington, D.C. Good morning, Alex.
That advisor is Hope Hicks. She's actually a counselor to the president, and in that capacity, she travels with him often, including multiple times this week. Reaching the Oval Office, President Trump tweeting overnight, "The First Lady and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together." The First Lady adding, "As too many Americans have done this year, the President and I are quarantining at home. Please be sure you are staying safe and we will get through this together." The White House physician saying both are well and they plan to remain at home within the White House. Late Thursday, President Trump announced plans to quarantine after one of his closest advisors, Hope Hicks, tested positive for the coronavirus. Sources telling ABC News Hicks is experiencing symptoms. The president saying this on Fox News.
You know Hope very well. She's fantastic, and she's done a great job. But it's very, very hard when you are with people from the military or for law enforcement, and they come over to you and they want to hug you and they want to kiss you because we really have done a good job for them. And you get close and things happen.
She had traveled with the president multiple times this week, including that trip to Cleveland Tuesday for the first presidential debate. Sources also telling ABC News Hicks tested positive the following day. Throughout this pandemic, more than 7 million people have been diagnosed with the coronavirus in the U.S., and more than 207,000 have died. There's also the question of what does this do to the Trump campaign? The White House released a revised schedule. That appearance in Florida has now been canceled. Alex Perche, ABC News, Washington.
This diagnosis comes just days after the first presidential debate on Tuesday, where the coronavirus pandemic was a hot topic. Denver 7's Micah Smith continues our team coverage this morning live from the newsroom. Good morning, Micah.
Good morning, Molly. For months now, the president has taken a less cautious personal and political stance on coronavirus. And even when we look at the president's comments over the past few days, he has doubled down on that stance. Just on Tuesday, during his debate with former Vice President Joe Biden, after the president says he wears a mask when he feels the need to, President Trump then mocked Biden for wearing a mask to the debate.
I don't wear a mask like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
The president has also admitted to downplaying the virus, saying he was trying to avoid panic. The president has held rallies that go against his own White House coronavirus guidelines, and on Thursday, he made comments alluding to the end of the pandemic.
We are on track to develop and distribute a vaccine before the end of the year, and maybe substantially before. And I just want to say that the end of the pandemic is in sight.
Trump has been pretty confident that the vaccine will be ready to distribute around Election Day, but other Trump administration officials say it could take months. Live in the newsroom, Micah Smith, Denver 7.
Micah, thank you. And the president has had a busy travel schedule campaigning for the election. He says on Tuesday he tested negative ahead of the first presidential debate. On Wednesday, he participated in a private fundraiser event and hosted a rally in Minnesota before returning to Washington. And then just yesterday, he participated in a roundtable event with supporters in New Jersey. No word on how close those interactions were.
Well, the timing of the president's diagnosis will have obvious ramifications for his and Joe Biden's campaigns, even perhaps the election itself. Denver 7's national political editor Joe St. George is covering that part of the story.
Look, there are a lot of unknowns this morning regarding the White House, the president, the first family, what is next in this campaign. And honestly, we're not going to know until we know whether or not President Trump is symptomatic or asymptomatic. If he develops symptoms that would warrant intense medical care, perhaps a hospital visit, that changes the trajectory of everything. The next presidential debate on October 15th, hard to see how that is able to happen. Vice President Joe Biden was in close proximity to President Trump just a few days ago in the first presidential debate. Does this alter what their campaign is doing? Because we don't know for sure yet when the president may have contracted this virus. So there is a lot of uncertainty right now for what this means in American politics.
And we haven't heard from the Biden campaign just yet, but sources just told CNN the candidate will be tested first thing this morning. Also new overnight, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke to reporters about the president's diagnosis.
They'll have a speedy recovery. I spoke with the Vice President's office this morning as well. We're taking this obviously very seriously.
Vice President Mike Pence says he's joining millions across the country praying for a full recovery. And Colorado Governor Jared Polis tweeted his wishes for the president's successful and complete recovery.